Brothers embraced our crazy sibling traditions at my birthday dinner, sparking chaos, an ex-girlfriend's wrath, and potential legal battles. The people in this situation of mine aside from myself are my husband Mark, my brother's 5 brothers, along with my best friend Margot, 32, Owen's fiancée Trish, 29, Kyle's partner Ro, 28, and Finn's newly serious girlfriend Annie, 23. For additional context, I was the parentified sister and basically raised my brothers. I helped them learn how to cook and clean, helped them with homework, took them to extracurriculars, helped them figure out scholarships/trade school/colleges, and basically made them into the men they are today. My brothers are very aware of the situation that I was in having to take on parental duties, and thus do not treat me like one. I am their sister and they treat me as such, which of course means having a few crazy sibling traditions, which is where my situation stems from. I, 30F, just had my birthday pass. Mark decided to help Owen organize a celebration dinner, since everybody had something to celebrate. Owen just got engaged to Trish, Jack just got a huge pay raise, Kyle started an online shop, Rob bought his first house, it's a motor home, and Finn just started his first serious relationship. So, Owen organized a huge dinner at a pretty fancy place, with my brothers and husband each planning to split the tab with Margot, and omit me since it was technically my birthday and thus shouldn't pay. Fast forward to the dinner and we're seated in the back due to having so many people. Everybody is having a great time, laughing and sharing more information about their life, when Margot has an old video pop up on her phone memories. It's a video of a birthday dinner when I was a teen, and it showed my brothers giving me my birthday bruises. You may have heard of birthday punches, well, it's basically the same concept. However, due to my brothers being massive hulks of meat and me being no more than 5 feet 1 in, they opt to flick me instead, so I'll get a tiny bruise instead of looking like I was jumped, lol. Rob decides to start with the birthday bruises tradition, each of my brothers opting to flick me 6 times so this way I get an even 30 flicks, with Margot and Mark each giving me 2 for good luck. Did it look strange? Probably, but we already stood out in the restaurant since we had so many people. And, it's not like we made it a big show, I simply went around the table to each of my brothers. Trish and Ro were laughing, well aware of the familial situation and that it was all in good fun. But, I did notice Annie didn't really seem to be comfortable. So, when she went to the bathroom, I decided to check on her, old habits die hard. I didn't approach her until she was washing her hands and asked her if everything was okay, she simply sneered and said we were embarrassing and low class. I told her that I didn't understand the attitude, that tonight was meant to be happy and we were just being ourselves. To be completely honest, my words were along the lines of this is who we are, we're siblings, we hit each other. It's not that deep. She once again sneered and said well, this is a place where it's not okay to be yourselves with a mocking tone. She then stormed out of the bathroom, so I returned to the table. She was sulky the rest of the dinner, and when the bill came, she tried to drag Finn off. This started a little quarrel with my other brothers, who all agreed beforehand to split the bill. Annie stepped in and said I could pay for them since white trash makes do. This started a fight with Margot, who threw wine on her and said you want white trash, you got it. I tried to take control, but Annie was already trying to get on Margot. Ro and Trish took her outside and the rest of us settled the bill and apologized for the disturbance to staff. When we left, we saw Annie swinging at Trish with Ro trying to get in between. I immediately stepped in and told Annie to leave, that until she apologizes that she wasn't allowed at any family gatherings, and told Finn that if she ever tries anything to call us immediately. Finn said that wouldn't be a problem and broke up with her right then and there, telling her to call a cab. He was apparently very upset to be called white trash and didn't like how she talked to me. He also later said she looks like she would accuse me of something, and that she's apparently done it to her ex. The problem I am currently dealing with is Annie's social circle. Annie apparently comes from a pretty affluent part of our community, went to a private school and had a personal chef and nanny kind of rich. Her and a bunch of her wealthy friends have tried to defame me, sending emails to my boss and coworkers. I told them to reply that they would be forwarding the email to me and I will sue for harassment and defamation if she continued to do this to me or any of my family members. The emails haven't bothered most of my coworkers, but I have a select dozen that already didn't like me, and now are using this to make my work life hell. I have already spoken to my boss about it, and they are monitoring those coworkers' work emails to assure Annie isn't sending anything. Margot told me I should go ahead with my threat the next time someone gets an email, and file defamation charges, along with harassment and emotional damages. The thing is Annie is 23, she's barely out of school, and this will wreck her life. I know she's attempting to wreck mine, but I can't help but feel like taking her to court is excessive. Am I being too nice? wth if I follow through and press charges? Update 1. A lot has happened the past 10 days, so I'll just give the events in order of happening. 2 days after my post went up, Margot's car got egged. She and 2 of her neighbors caught the perpetrators on camera, and 2 of Annie's flying monkeys, which I am now calling them because someone in the OG post called them that and I laughed so hard at the accuracy, were taken into custody. And boy, were these girls rats. They sold out Annie in a heartbeat. I almost pitied the poor girl until I came out of work and found the words "You deserved your miscarriage" spray painted on my car hood. Information: I suffered a miscarriage at the beginning of the year after one of my students, I work in a behavioral school, kicked me down the stairwell. I had been trying to help another teacher, and there was a security guard also present, but the kid just kicked my shin and nobody caught me in time. I was 6 months along when it happened and suffered it while at work. It was a whole scene with ambulances, admin staff, district staff. Meanwhile I was just bleeding and crying. I was given PTO for 2 weeks, and by the time I returned to work, everybody knew. I got plenty of soft looks, everybody made my food or tried to make me feel better, even the ladies who didn't like me. I was just thankful summer vacation was coming up. I took photos of the vandalism and presented it to my boss, since the paint was still wet, which means there should be camera evidence. They told me to sit tight and they would take care of it. After 30 minutes, my boss, one of the coworkers who didn't like me, and 2 security officers came back. Turns out, the coworker who didn't like me had fed Annie that information, and was promptly fired on the spot after being forced to apologize to me. They also had security look through the parking lot footage, and got the license plate of Annie's car screeching out of the parking lot with her tossing a can of spray paint out the window, and denting another car in the process. Police were called and the spray can was taken as evidence. I was advised to get a lawyer and press charges. At this point, I decided to talk to a lawyer, so I looked at lawyers when I got home and consulted one the next day via a virtual consultation. He offered to do the case pro bono, as he had a bone to pick with Annie's mother. Not my business to tell, but whoa, was that story crazier than mine. We drafted all evidence into a compiled document and went through with pressing the charges for the damage to my car, as well as harassment and emotional distress. Let me tell y'all, I was expecting there to be a blowout when this happened. But karma ate her up. Apparently, Annie has more than just what she did to me. The coworker whose car she dented when she threw out the spray can was pressing charges. Margot was also pressing charges for emotional distress. Also, turns out, she had been going after my brothers. She and her flying monkeys were review bombing Kyle's shop. They slashed 3 tires on Rob's mobile home. She had been sending complaints to Owen's boss through customer service lines, and she had stolen Jack's fence surrounding his house. wh.reddit steals a fence. Apparently the amounting charges finally caught Daddy's attention, because he had everybody who was pressing charges come to one of his properties to talk it out. He had paid her bail and was keeping her in close proximity to assure she didn't get into any more mischief. Margot said she would be bringing her lawyer, and advised everybody else to do the same. So, it was actually pretty funny watching Annie's face as we all pulled up with our lawyers, with the exception of Finn, who was just coming as a character witness and had a file of evidence all his own. She had been harassing him and blackmailing him, and was ready to feed these absolutely damning evidences to the pack of lawyers who were attending. It's worth to note that I had not gotten the spray paint removed, so when Annie's father saw it, you could see the boiling, quiet rage in his glare. Annie's father, who I will dub Hunter, also had his lawyer present. The sit-down lasted 2 days, with all the lawyers going over the different charges and appropriate ways to punish them. My coworker was simply paid out, with some extra financial compensation and a few coupons from Hunter's businesses. Jack was returned his fence and Hunter paid to have it reinstalled, repainted, and for a 10-year warranty. Jack still stayed as emotional support since Mark was away on business. All the false reviews were removed from Kyle's shop and Hunter paid for any lost revenue. That talk was done between Hunter and Kyle in private, so I don't know how much he was paid. Hunter also contacted Owen's boss, who he apparently went to school with, and set the record straight. Hunter also decided to pay for Trish and Owen's honeymoon as excess compensation. That just left Margot, Rob, and I, the lawyers, us 3, and Hunter agreed to culminate the charges into one case, and Hunter was able to wrangle the district attorney to come and try to strike a plea deal. I can't say much about that since the case is still ongoing, but just know Annie will be paying for her crimes. Hunter offered to get me a new car. I had been driving the same car for 10 years, and I told him I'd settled for a used one. Hunter made a fuss, saying I didn't raise my daughter like this is all her mother. Like, wow, this woman must be a demon if even her own husband throws her under the bus like that. So, Hunter is taking me car shopping. Wifey is apparently pissed that Hunter isn't covering for their little princess, and Annie is getting her just desserts. Funny how money is indeed a very powerful thing, as Hunter even got the case to be moved to a priority list and thus proceedings will be sped up. To top everything off, Hunter said all the payouts will be coming from Annie's inheritance. Which is why he was so okay with giving out so much excess compensation. God, Annie's face. I wish I could have photographed it. I have no issues updating once the proceedings are finished. I will make sure to keep a spare tab open just so I don't lose this throwaway. It seems to be a pretty happy end for me. I didn't expect it to be solved in under 10 days, but Hunter is a very nice man. Maybe the Gen Zs shouldn't eat this rich, he's a good one lol. He even invited Mark, Trish, and Ro out for drinks to discuss compensation for the scene at dinner, too. Right now, I'm just relaxing on my sofa while Mark makes popcorn. We're about to binge some cartoons. We like spending our Sundays like that. Glad I was able to update you all. Thank you for your words of encouragement. I will be back one last time after the court proceedings, and maybe another if my lawyer gives me permission to tell his story about Annie's mom. Annie has a record, but Hunter always bailed her out. The cops advised me to lawyer up and press charges because Annie has a history of doing things like this and getting away with it. The process is still long and the cops did collect evidence. It was due to Annie's familial name that makes things a lot quicker. Hunter is a tycoon of sorts, with many of his affiliations paying for Annie's lifestyle. He has a lot of fingers in a lot of pies, and thus holds a lot of power in our town. The sit-down was to minimize Annie's criminal charges, to see what would be worth going to court for or not. This is why Owen, my co-worker, Kyle, and Jack got paid out. However, the charges from Rob, Margot, and I are still being processed. The DA was called after the sit-down. As I said in a comment, it is not uncommon for lawyers to sit with a perpetrator to find common ground. We all had to sign documents of the sit-down, stating what it is we had done and what was accomplished. From there, I don't have any idea as I haven't heard anything from my lawyer about court dates. Now on to second story. Refused my sister's wedding invitation after she publicly humiliated my son for his medical condition, sparking family drama and backlash. Jane is 37 years old. Growing up, we were always close, sharing secrets and supporting each other through life's ups and downs. However, Jane has always had a tendency to be backhanded and passive-aggressive. She would make snide remarks under the guise of concern and often find subtle ways to belittle me or others. Despite this, I 34F always tried to maintain a good relationship with her, believing that deep down she cared for me. This all came to a head during a recent family gathering at Jane's house. My son, Liam, who is 7 years old, has a bladder issue that sometimes causes him to have accidents. We've been working with doctors and trying our best to manage it, but it's a sensitive topic for him. During the gathering, Liam had an accident. He was embarrassed, and I was in the process of helping him clean up when Jane noticed. Instead of being understanding or discreet, Jane loudly pointed it out in front of everyone. She said things like, "How disgusting. And at his age, this is unacceptable." She even went as far as to say that Liam should be ashamed of himself and criticized me for not getting him under control. Her comments made Liam burst into tears, and I quickly took him home to comfort him. As I was gathering our things to leave, Jane came over, still clearly upset. She asked me why I was leaving. I looked at her, trying to keep my voice calm for Liam's sake. "Jane, I think it's best if we go home. Liam is very upset right now." Jane rolled her eyes at me. "Oh, come on. It's just an accident. He needs to learn how to handle these things better. You can't just coddle him forever." My patience was wearing thin, but I tried to explain again. "Jane, Liam has a medical condition. We're working with doctors, and it's a sensitive issue for him. Your comments just now were really hurtful. I was just telling the truth. He needs to toughen up. You're not doing him any favors by babying him." At this point, I was furious but didn't want to escalate the situation in front of Liam. I took a deep breath and said, "We'll talk about this later, Jane. Right now, I need to take care of my son." Without waiting for a response, I gathered Liam and headed to the car. On the drive home, I couldn't shake the image of Jane's face and her harsh words. This wasn't the first time she had made Liam feel bad about his condition. Each time, I had hoped she would understand and show some empathy, but it seemed like she was only getting worse. The next day, I called Jane to talk about what had happened. This conversation is from what I can remember. I wanted to explain again, away from the heat of the moment, and hoped she would see reason. "Jane, about yesterday. I need you to understand how much your words hurt Liam. He's already struggling, and your comments made him feel even worse." Instead of apologizing, Jane was very defensive. "I'm not going to apologize for telling the truth. You need to stop coddling him, and he needs to learn to deal with the real world." Her response was like a punch to the gut. I had hoped for some empathy, some understanding, but it was clear she wasn't going to give it. "Jane, I don't think you understand how serious this is. He has a medical condition. It's not something he can just toughen up from." She told me, "Look, I have a wedding to plan. I don't have time for this drama." When Jane's wedding invitations went out, I received one, but I felt conflicted. On one hand, she's my sister, and it's a significant event in her life. On the other hand, I couldn't forget how she humiliated my son and her refusal to apologize. After much thought, I decided to decline the invitation. I didn't feel comfortable celebrating with someone who had been so cruel to my child. When Jane found out, she was livid. She accused me of trying to ruin her special day and called me petty and overdramatic. Some family members sided with her, saying I should let it go for the sake of family harmony, while others understood my decision and supported me. This wasn't the first time Jane had done something like this. She has a history of making hurtful comments about Liam's condition and generally lacks sensitivity when it comes to his medical issues. Each time, I've tried to address it calmly, hoping she would eventually understand and be more considerate. Unfortunately, she never changes, and her behavior continues to hurt my son. Jane has been blowing up my phone, including other family members. Now, I'm left questioning if I'm the asshole for refusing to go to my sister's wedding. I don't want to cause family drama, but I also feel strongly about standing up for my son. This wedding is just the latest incident in a long line of hurtful behavior from Jane, and I'm not sure how much more I can take. So, Ida for refusing to go to my sister's wedding after she publicly humiliated my son? Update 1. The reason I bring Liam to these gatherings is because he loves his cousins. He enjoys spending time with family. Liam doesn't like wearing pull-ups or diapers of any form. That is why I haven't necessarily been using them. Now, to further update, I've talked to Liam about what happened. I told him that it wasn't his fault at all, and that Aunt Jane was being very rude and inconsiderate. I told him that he's an amazing boy, and to never let anybody say otherwise. My son was very happy to hear this. He told me that what Jane had said to him hurt his feelings a lot, and I completely understood. I asked him if he wanted to continue to go to these family events. He said no. I fully supported his decision. My son comes first, and the comments have helped me realize that I've let Jane walk all over me with the fear of causing a tear in the family. Now, I'm going little to no contact with Jane. I'll send her the occasional holiday message, but that's it. I cannot be around someone who hurts my son. I felt as if I had failed as a mom, and the comments have truly opened my eyes, so thank you all. As for the people in my family who support my sister, I have blocked them all. I refuse to allow people who agree with her mentality to be involved in my son's life. I love my son with all my heart, and I would do anything for that little guy. I think that I should have put a stop to it sooner, and I regret not doing that. However, I know that I can be a better mom, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I messaged the family that was contacting me in a mass group chat, and I told them that we would no longer be coming to any family events. If they wanted to see my son, they would have to come individually, or the event would have to be hosted by me. I also told them that my sister's behavior needs to be fixed, because that was the reason our family is being torn apart. Not because I'm not going to her wedding, but because she decided to make fun of my child. My mother is on my side, and fully supports my decision. My father is still stuck in the middle, and for that I think I should go low contact with him too. I'm going to keep in touch with you all, and keep the updates coming whenever I can. All I know is that even if she gives my son the apology he deserves, I want nothing to do with her. I don't want her around my son. Regarding her father, my father has always been partial towards my sister. I wouldn't mind if he disowned me because he wasn't much of a dad to me anyways. Update 2. Hi, everyone. It's been a couple of months since I made my update post, so I figured I should update once more, if anyone is still interested. My sister Jane got married on December 4th, and it has been such a roller coaster. I did not go to the wedding, nor did I go to any after party or gathering they had. I'm not at all interested in any of their plans. From what I heard, red wine was spilled on her dress, which in turn ruined the photos. Karma's a B. TCH, anyways, I ended up taking Liam to the mall, and just spent the entire day with him. I bought him some new Lego sets, clothes, and basically everything he wanted. My boy deserves to be spoiled. Before anyone asks, yes, he still has his bladder issues. However, yes, we managed to get him used to wearing pull-ups and other things to manage his accidents. A lot of people sent me messages regarding certain things to use, and honestly it really helped a lot. I checked a few of them before I logged out of this account. It wasn't easy getting him used to the change, but Liam understood that it was for the best and learned to use them. He hasn't really complained about anything so far. Now the big question is, what's going on with my sister? Like I said, she got married and all, blah, blah, blah. According to her maid of honor, she was a real bridezilla. So glad I wasn't there. I feel bad for her fiancé, really nice guy. I am still no contact with her or anyone in my family that supported her. My mother has been my rock. It hasn't been that hard to adjust actually. My father has been cut off as well. My father and I never got along, so it isn't a loss for me. I fully believe that he is the reason my sister acts the way she does. My sister has tried to reach out to me a couple of times. Most of them were just her berating me for not going to the wedding, and the others were half-assed apologies. I could honestly care less about what she says. I read Liam some of the comments and guys, you made him the happiest little boy on earth. His birthday was actually 4 days ago, Jan 22nd. He is now 8 years old. We had a nice Lego-themed party for him. He loves Legos. My mom and a few cousins were invited, along with his school friends. He had an accident during the party, but finally, no one was there to berate him for something he can't control.